What if I told you you could probably retire today? And no, you don't have to find a sugar daddy or win the lottery. Hear me out. How's it going, everyone? In this video, I'm going to be talking about why I choose CoastFIRE. Before discovering CoastFIRE, I was simply saving and investing without realizing there was a structured strategy behind it. I was a fan of the concept without knowing it had a name. The idea that compound interest could do most of the heavy lifting and allowing me to focus on what I want to do right now. That really resonated with me. It almost felt like a cheat code to life. And speaking of cheat codes, if you eat at McDonald's as often as I do, then please use their mobile app to get free food. It's totally worth it to get a buy one get one free deal. And if you are on a diet, then forget I said anything. So CoastFIRE is a financial strategy where you save and invest enough early on to let compound interest grow your portfolio, allowing you to reduce or stop contributions while you coast to full retirement. In other words, depending on when you enter the workforce, the name of the game is to save aggressively and build a decent portfolio as fast as possible. You do this by working lots of hours with overtime or by entering a profession with high compensation. Then after doing that for a while, you pivot to CoastFIRE. As your portfolio grows on its own, you engage in a low-stress job or pursue a passion project to fund your preferred lifestyle, ensuring that you have financial comfort until you retire more conventionally. Typically, you're going to be around age 60, all thanks to compound interest. So what is compound interest? Compound interest is when your money grows on its own from your investments doing well, compounding upon itself. Think of a snowball rolling down a hill. The snowball gets bigger and bigger as it goes. And oddly enough, just like the size of my nose, I have a big nose as it is. And to think that it's only going to get bigger is a crazy idea to me. And that scares me because if I get a bigger nose, does that mean that I'll have more boogers inside of that big nose? Because I really do not like boogers. And when we're young and everything, we think it's gross to pick your nose. But as we get older, every single one of us picks our nose because boogers get in the way of breathing properly. Or maybe I'm just weird. But anyhow, using the S&P 500, which is referred to as the market as an example, over the past 100 years, the annual rate of return has been 10%. Sometimes the market goes up, like what you see on your screen right now, like in 1951, and sometimes the market goes down, like in the year 2008. But on average, your money would have grown at a rate of 10% year over year for the past 100 years. So let's look at an example. What would have happened if you invested $100 into the market back in 2018? This is just an illustration of how money compounds over time. So your $100 would have went down by negative 4%, and it would have been $95 at the end of the year. However, it would have grown by 31% the next year and become $125. And then it would have grown by an additional 18% and become $148 the following year. And as we fast forward throughout the years to this year, that initial $100 would have grown to $231. This is the idea behind CoastFIRE, letting your portfolio compound as you coast. All right, so now that we understand compound interest, let's see how CoastFIRE uses it to their advantage. We're going to calculate how this might work for someone who retires at age 30 with $100,000 invested into the stock market, if he decides to do CoastFIRE right there and then. Taking inflation into consideration, we're going to say his portfolio will grow at a rate of 8% year over year for 35 years. And remember, with CoastFIRE, you're not making any additional contributions into your portfolio. So by age 65, the initial $100,000 investment would grow to approximately $1.4 million. And when we think about Social Security payments and a 4% dividend yield income, that is more than enough for a simple man with a smooth brain like me. That's why I like CoastFIRE. It just makes a lot of sense. I mean, yes, it takes hard work and dedication to save up a lot of money up front really fast. The cool thing is, CoastFIRE is about letting your money do all of the work without any additional contributions. But what if I were to throw in an extra $100 a month every single month. Then what would happen? Exact same parameters and variables. Then we are talking about $1.8 million by age 65. Compound interest and time in the market is amazing, right? But not everyone wants to retire at age 65. So let's say you want to stop work altogether at an earlier age. Let's go ahead and adjust these numbers and see what happens. So instead of $100,000, let's say you have $180,000 invested by age 30, in which case it would be $1.5 million after 25 years. So with CoastFIRE, the more money you have saved up front, the bigger the compounding effect will be in the long run. And in a perfect world, as long as the stock market behaves like it has in the past and grows at about 10% a year. Okay, so I think we all understand that money saved up today and invested is going to be worth a lot more in the future. However, what makes CoastFIRE weird is that after you decide to CoastFIRE, you still have to work at a job. So what does that look like? Your first option is to CoastFIRE at the same job. But the thing is, your job would no longer be stressful because you have FU money. You could do the bare minimum because you're no longer trying to climb the ladder. You don't have to play politics because you don't mind being passed for promotions, or if you're selected for the next restructuring layoffs, that's good because now you get a severance package or unemployment compensation. So if you choose to do CoastFIRE and stay at your same job, you're literally going to be a butt in a seat for a paycheck to fund your hobbies, toys, and to pay for your wife's breast implants that she got in Turkey. So if option one, if you stay at the same job, it's basically quiet quitting. Or you could even downgrade and pivot to a job that actually excites you, to a profession you like but doesn't pay well, but pays enough to cover the bills. Because the best part is, you're not worried about contributing any more money to your portfolio because compound interest and time in the market is going to do the work for you. So less money from your dream job is okay. And let's be honest, dream jobs tend to pay significantly less than realistic jobs that pay well. With CoastFIRE, it's not only an option, but a possibility to actually embark upon your dream job. Couldn't you just work at your high-paying job for 10 or 20 more years for a full retirement? I just don't get it. Why would you ever do CoastFIRE? And to that, my friend, I would say is a valid call out. The short answer up front is yes, you could. You could stay in your job for another 10, 15 to 20 years and then just fully retire. But CoastFIRE is a different mindset of doing something you were going to do in retirement except 10 to 20 years sooner. For some people, when they retire, they expect to just go fishing and golfing and drinking every single day. And for others, well, they wouldn't mind working a simple job for 20 hours a week because it's their passion, dream job, or to get a sense of fulfillment in life. People choose CoastFIRE in their 30s or 40s because full fire is not guaranteed to anyone. Because the reality is, scary health complications can happen at any moment. So you might as well enjoy freedom and a life you want after working hard for about 10 to 15 years right now. Because let's face it, after age 28, it's all downhill. Your body will hurt the next morning if you sleep in an odd position. And here's my corporate lip service response to the question. Well, by understanding math, someone who chooses CoastFIRE feels comfort in knowing the market will do all the heavy lifting so that one can enjoy the benefits of reduced stress, improved work-life balance, and the ability to pursue personal goals and passions sooner rather than later.
Yeah, buddy, but what about the risks?
For anyone, including myself, that chooses CoastFIRE, you're making an optimistic assumption that nothing catastrophic is going to happen. So the risk I am willing to take is that with my current lifestyle, it's contingent upon my body staying healthy and no crazy setbacks from happening, because I cannot imagine having to deal with remodeling my home on my minimum wage budget or dealing with an emergency. It would derail the whole retirement game plan. Kinda like a football team going in with a plan to win the game, but getting their dicks and balls smashed in by the end of the first quarter.
What about the risks, part 2?
Yes, the future is uncertain, and life's preferences can change. Like if you are a part of the LGBTQ community in your 20s, but then in your 30s you decide to be straight again, it happens. No one's judging. So coasting isn't a set it and forget it methodology. It's a flexible journey. If projections are off and your numbers look a little weird, then you can just adjust it as needed. And if minimum wage work really becomes a chore, then I can always switch to pursuing traditional FIRE again. If I ever need to, I can default on my background and education to pivot back into corporate America. Fortunately, I graduated from a prestigious university, and that alumni network alone has been worth its weight in gold. So even though I don't want to, if I have to, there's a job waiting for me somewhere in corporate America. But to me, it's more risky to spend your entire life working yourself to get gray hair everywhere and you're stressed all the time and amassing this wealth that you might not ever enjoy. And besides, all of life is a game of calculated risk. So I'm gonna end the discussion around risk with this. What I learned in life is that if you spend all of your time and energy worrying about the what if situations, then that's no way to live. That's why I try to remind myself weekly that uncertainty about the future makes it that much more crucial for me to enjoy the present moment. But this is not a philosophy video now, is it? But hey, speaking of philosophy, I want to give a wholehearted shout out to Stoicism. Stoicism has been a game changer in helping me to regulate my emotions. Which brings me to today's video sponsor, which is the small hairs around your right nipple. So earlier, we talked about how in CoastFIRE, you still need a job. Number one, you can stay at your old job that you hate, but quiet quit, or you can pivot into a low paying but high satisfaction job that you always wanted to do. So I'm going to throw out some ideas out there. Number one, you could work at a botanical garden. Number two, you could be an event usher at a local stadium or concerts or for sporting events. You could be a mountain guide. You could be a ski or surf instructor. You could coach youth sports. You could be a part-time consultant in your field. You could brew craft beer. You could join the National Guard. We always refer to them as weekend warriors, but let's be honest, they deploy just as much as active duty in times of war. You could even be a tour guide for your city, unless you live in a rural area with a population of 500. Then it might not be a good idea. You could deliver pizzas for Domino's, or you could even work part-time for an airline. There are so many jobs and gigs for airlines that are just 20 or 30 hours a week. You could work at the ticket counter, you could work as an agent gate, or at the ramp, loading or deloading luggage. And even if you just work part-time, you'll still get flying benefits, depending on which airline, Southwest, American, United. It depends. You could also work at a movie theater part-time, and I want to make a call out. When I was a teenager growing up, that was actually my dream job because I really liked movies. So the idea of sweeping up popcorn that people throw on the floor and getting the opportunity to watch new releases sounds pretty good to me. But anyways, you could also deliver food through DoorDash or Uber Eats. And here's a crazy idea. You could even be a whitewater raft instructor. Do you know how fun that job would be? And if you're a creative person that can make stuff with your hands, you can sell it on Etsy, like if you know how to crochet, or you could even super glue your pube trimmings to a button and sell that on eBay or something. And the perfect CoastFIRE job for you could be a yoga instructor for obese men that have small feet. That would be the perfect job for you, man. But jokes aside, the best part is that you would be doing this job because you genuinely enjoy it. Imagine the freedom of working without worrying about promotions, performance reviews, status, or other unnecessary stresses. That's the liberating power of having enough money saved, aka FU money, and working in a fulfilling job as someone who is CoastFIRE. Like on surface level, you're a 41-year-old working a minimum wage job, but in the background, your portfolio is growing enough to let you retire eventually. So if you're the type of person who doesn't care what people think of them, then that's a perfect path to take in life. And I'll be honest, this is one of the weakest arguments for CoastFIRE, but here it goes. CoastFIRE actually helps you out when it comes to your Social Security payments. So if you didn't know, your Social Security payment that you get in retirement is calculated by the 35 years of your highest income earned. So if you only work 15 years and then fire, then 20 years of $0 will be plugged into their formula, which will definitely spit out a lower monthly payment for you when you retire. On the other hand, with CoastFIRE, you're going to have 35 years of Social Security eligible data and payments made, which means in theory your payout every month should be higher. But let's be real, who knows if Social Security will even be around 10 to 20 years from now. So for me, when I do retirement planning, I don't even include the Social Security payments that are a what if situation. And if Social Security payments are still around by the time that I retire, then good, it's going to be like the cherry on top of my dividend income. And a question I wanted to clarify for y'all is this.
Isn't Barista Fire and CoastFIRE the exact same thing? Maybe I'm missing something, buddy.
So Barista Fire, what you see on the left side of your screen, involves working while also making withdrawals from your portfolio to supplement your income to pay for daily and monthly expenses. On the other hand, CoastFIRE, what you see on the right side of your screen, entails working without making withdrawals from your portfolio. And because you don't touch the principal amount in your portfolio, this allows your investments to grow and compound until you reach your designated retirement age for a full FIRE at age 63, 64, 65. So Barista FIRE and CoastFIRE have similar ideas, but the difference is in taking income from the portfolio versus not. Kind of similar like how some people think eating a bruised banana is gross, but these exact same people don't hesitate to lick booty holes in their own personal time. Get it together, Kevin. You're grossing me out. So that was a really long-winded way to say that's why I choose CoastFIRE, the original question in the beginning of this video. As for my own personal strategy, I do a combination of both CoastFIRE and lean fire as I'm actively making contributions to my portfolio. And from this hybrid approach, I have a lean fire goal number of $800,000. And you're correct, Brian, I am nowhere near that number because number one, I work a minimum wage job. And even though my annual income is really small, I want to show that you don't need a six-figure job to participate in FIRE, financial independence, retire early. My minimum wage job pays for the bills while I am currently doing my dream job of creating content on YouTube full time. This YouTube channel that you're watching right now is one of 3 channels that I am running. So I probably spend around 70 to 80 hours a week doing YouTube. If I'm not sleeping, pooping, or showering naked, I'm probably researching, script writing, filming, and editing content for YouTube. The funny part is, I barely get paid right now. However, I am betting on myself. If YouTube does kick off, then it's a win-win situation because it's my dream job and I'll have good compensation. If YouTube doesn't pan out, then my part-time job is awesome too. Anyways, what do you think of CoastFIRE? Let me hear your opinions because I could be wrong. And maybe I need one of you to give me a wake-up call and slap me in the balls so that I can ditch YouTube and pivot back into corporate America as a director. Can you believe that? This guy making silly jokes on a YouTube video used to be a director at a Fortune 500 company? Anyways, I'm the definition of a guy who takes calculated risks in life and just goes for it. So I'm a little strange in the head because other people would have waited for their YouTube channel to grow and be big before quitting their six-figure job, but me, I'm weird. Anyhow, you're gonna have to wait for the full life story video to hear my reasoning and the whole details. But until next time, stay safe, my friend, and I'll talk to you really soon. Bye-bye.